This is fucking nerve-wracking.
Right, I'm just pressing the fucking button.
Oh, wait, but 3, 2, 1, recording. Recording. We're recording.
Here we are.
After years and years and years, I say years and years and years, it's been like 6 years since we've been talking about having a podcast and just talking to each other across. And just never had the time, the available equipment, the wherewithal.
And now somehow
It's all fallen together.
the stars have aligned.
After a lot of very destructive things happened in our worlds.
True.
Like terrible, terrible stuff happened. And somehow we ended up right back here. So
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to be doing something like this. Probably this. The lights are gonna flicker in confirmation.
I don't know why they do that.
Maybe they just go on when our talk is like good, and they go off when it's like y'all are stupid. Little,
It's like a
little
ghosty.
elves up there that are like doop 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 doop.
But like, nope,
As they do.
bad. Switch the topic.
And stupid, turn it off.
Yeah. But I'm happy that we're finally doing this because it's like, I feel like we've been waiting a really long time to
Collaborate.
do something together like this because like we tried to do the music thing for a while where we would do, but that's like the process of doing that is
So overwhelming on your part, and
yeah.
it affected my ego a lot because I don't know if anybody who sees this is gonna know me, but I hate seeing myself on video. I hate hearing myself sing. I hate seeing myself in photos. So it's kind of a silly thing that I'm in the industry.
yeah. I think that's common. I feel like everybody feels that way though.
That's true. It's like the only time we could do like a real music was when you just picked up the guitar and you were like jamming, and then we'd start singing, and then we'd it'd be like, if that could have been recorded right there,
Right.
perfect.
Yeah. It's just when you actually record music and you're trying to actually produce it, it takes so much time and so much focus to do that it's like, it can be good, but when you're talking about creating content that you want to put out, it's like, it's so time consuming that like, there's a cat.
Yeah, my cat is going to be also part of the conversation at random intervals because he's a real good boy.
It's all right. He's welcome.
I love you, buddy. Yeah, I know. You want to go outside.
But yeah, that's the hard part with trying to do the music thing. It's like, unless you have a full studio and like people working behind you that can do the intricate, difficult parts, like if you're trying to make content to put out online just creatively, it's gonna take. I mean, like me alone making a song by myself, like doing a cover or something, I would put upwards of like 50 to 80 hours.
I know.
Into one.
It was always just flabbergasting to me. And also, you turned into a weird, different Jordan when you actually were invested in a project. It'd be like, hey, what you doing? He'd be like, oh, I've been sitting in front of this computer mixing this song for the last 9.5 hours. You don't have that attention span. It does not exist in you unless you're doing that.
Yeah. So when I'm doing creative stuff that like I'm actually really interested in, I get this level of focus that I don't like. It's just like something just takes over me.
Right.
And I completely and totally just fall into what I'm doing.
Which is super fucking cool.
Yeah, it's useful, but at the same time, it's like I need to actively reel that back a little bit because if I focus too hard, I get to a point where I'm not like being productive. Like I'll start making more mistakes. Like, you know, if I'm going like 8-9 hours in a day or something, like it's like I start like
You're
having
humaning.
to redo things over and over again. And I'm so focused on getting it right and doing it right that it takes like way longer than it should because like I need to, when I'm doing things like that in the creative space, I have to reel myself back in and be like, okay, I'm going to give myself this many hours and wherever I'm at there, I'm just going to stop and I'll pick it up tomorrow when I'm recharged.
That's wise, which is kind of why we're doing just an open conversation podcast thing because there's not too much editing that you can get lost in the sauce in.
Right. It's like as soon as you set up the equipment. It's like just talk, hit record and talk.
Do random
And that's
things.
that.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jordan,
Yes.
why are you doing what you're doing?
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, I mean, we kind of just got into that a little
Kind
bit.
of a little bit, yeah. I just want to
'Cause-
clarify the points because I feel like it's a big topic and there's many different avenues we can take from it. And also, I got super caffeinated.
I know, I'm getting there too. I'm starting to get
It's starting to hit me, and I'm like,
getting that shit. Yeah, I feel the too.
my hands are sweating.
Mine too.
I think we're also a little bit
Clammy.
nervous that we're actually doing the thing
Yeah.
that we've been trying to do.
Yeah, we do like little testers, and it's
Yeah.
like whatever. We can just stick around and be silly, and then just delete it. But now it's like, oh, this is actually one that we want to.
People might hear us talk right now and see us. And,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think I when you talk about why we're doing this, I guess it's
Yeah.
I need some form of consistent space where I can be creative and put something out that other people can consume and enjoy, I guess. Like 'cause-
It's like art. It's like regardless of if it's going to be seen by 10 people, 1,000, or whatever, it's like there's something cathartic about doing any sort of creative project like this, especially when we can just talk and it's like me and you.
Right.
And we've been friends for the majority of our lives at this point. Yeah.
yeah.
The vast majority.
I think it was like between 12 and 13 years old that we met. So
We were 11 when we met, and then we became like proper friends
Yeah.
between 12 and 13.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but this is like like you said, it's kind of like a cathartic thing. It's kind of like this will help me being able to have conversations with you or anybody else that we decide to bring on, and like
There's going to be a
do
lot of
stuff
y'all.
with.
Prepare.
Yeah, it will be like a process of helping me organize my thoughts,
Yeah.
like about life and about things, and then it's really cool to be able to go back and watch.
Right.
Because you can kind of see the process of growth then. If you're like, oh, a year down the road after we're 100 podcasts in or something, like we can
Oh, that's going to be wild.
we can go and come back and look at this and be like, oh wow, look at that growth, like look what happened. And then you almost see the product of your creativity, which makes you more motivated to
I hadn't thought about the podcast as like a formative thing to do for us before. That's an interesting thing.
yeah, like it's gonna be multiple things, I think,
Yeah.
for us, as long as we can
Consistently.
like stay dedicated to doing something like this. Because honestly, regardless of what I'm doing out in the real world and work, like doing things like this where I'm able to connect to people like outside of here and express myself, I guess, in a way, it helps to. It's like I just need the space to do this. Like I need to do something like this. If I don't, I feel like I'm cheating myself, or I'm not like
Yeah. It
not
just,
doing what I'm meant to do.
yeah. It just feels like I'm not living up. Like if I'm just going through life and doing the things that make money and then doing the things that make me sane enough so that I can go back to doing the things that make money, it kind of loses, like life loses its luster. You're just a series of work events and recovery events, and there's nothing else. But this, I don't know, it's something that, like I was saying before, it doesn't matter how many people see it, because when we talk about doing it and we get on this table, it's like it feels good. It
does.
feels right in some weird way, and who the fuck knows where this is
Right.
gonna go.
Yeah.
But
And I think that's kind of the measure of like, you're doing the right thing, because it's like it's not about the end product, or it's not about like what we get from doing this. It's about the act of doing it itself makes us feel good.
like JP says, it's about the journey.
Right.
Right now, it feels like the journey is wonderful and reinvigorated. Which I don't know about anybody who's listening to this, but sometimes life is not invigorating at all. It's soul sucking.
Yeah. Especially when you don't have something that you're working towards like this.
Right. Like I'm sure that there's lots of people who can function in normal life and have their eye on like a promotion or like a position that they're slowly accumulating the experience they need to. And it's like, yeah, you have a goal you're working towards. But for a lot of us who haven't had that experience of the world being able to provide any sort of purpose, I guess we're going to have to get into what you and I are kind of like in this world and why why we don't really function very well.
Yeah. It's sort of like, I guess the best conceptualization that I can get of it is like the normal way that society functions is like everything is very compartmentalized. Like it's like when you choose a career path, you have a very narrow focus, and there's not a lot of those things that you can choose where there's room for growth and expansion. Like there's a
or at least not growth and expansion in like many ways. It's like compartmentalized to like if you're growing and expanding, it's only in this thin venue. It's like a road just going down the street or something like that.
Right. And that's why I feel like doing something like this in tandem with like, you know, like having some sort of normal real world thing going on, and then also at the same time making sure that you have time to follow the things that you like feel passionate about or that make you feel like you're doing some sort of personal growth or movement forward is really important. So, and ultimately it's like I want to be able to do something like this like and only be able to do something
God,
like
that
this.
would be a dream, wouldn't it?
It'd be insane.
And it would also be super validating to how we have felt since Johnny V's in West Dallas at 15, when we would sit down in there and illegally smoke our cigarettes. You were allowed to smoke inside restaurants back then. We're that old.
Yeah, that almost seems like a different.
It seems like an 80s or something, but no, that was our experience in high school.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was like right when we turned 18 or 19 that they made smoking inside illegal. But thankfully, both of us don't smoke cigarettes anymore. So, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's time. Time is crazy.
It's a weird and wild thing.
Yeah. But do you have any like feels about like I guess what makes you feel good about doing something like this? Is it like
I think I mentioned a little bit of it before. It's a creative project that helps me feel more okay with going and progressing through this life, because there's so much of this life that, you know, time is like this pressure. Like you haven't accomplished things, you haven't done this or that and the other thing. But when you create something that, you know, it's, I guess, objective, like it doesn't, like no one can say it's bad, good, or another thing. I mean, you can, but it's very opinionated, and it kind of removes that feel of like judgment in a way. It's a very complex thought for me. I'm having to untangle my feels. But it removes the pressure of everybody being able to look and be like, oh, it's at this marker, and that means whatever. It's like this obscure other thing that doesn't really fit.
right?
And, you know, there's ways to move up with this. Like once we can get really rad guests who may have like super awesome credentials or incredible experiences and perspectives. But I just needed something. And for so long, I couldn't find it on my own. Every time I tried to find it on my own, it just ended up with me being in very rough spots, feeling like I wasn't able to. But for whatever reason, when we're together and we're trying to create a project, it just kind of flows out because like, and maybe there isn't like a perfect balance to it, but it seems like everything that I cannot get myself to do, it falls within your natural wheelhouse. So it's like everything can just kind of happen.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what makes us like able to work together so well is like I feel like I can set up the platform. I can be like, okay, this is what we're going to do and how it's going to function and what we can do with it. and then on your end it will help. Like I feel like you can like give direction in a like
Maybe, I don't know.
not direction, but like a. I'm trying to think of the proper word. Like get us to do it.
Oh, that's a thing I can do.
Get
Yeah,
us to
you're
do
right. I do have that energy. I
You know
can
what
bring.
I mean? Like
What's the button for the dual screen? Is it that one?
it's G2.
2.
G2.
Boop. We're still learning all of our buttons, guys.
Yeah. Hopefully, eventually, we can automate that. But
Yeah, but Jordan hasn't figured out that program
I
yet.
tried to Google it and I can't figure it out. So
I'm sure someone we come across in the next couple of weeks will be like, "Oh yeah, I totally know how to do that." It'll just be one of those serendipitous events.
either that or we have to get a friend to do it for us. Let's just sit on the side and
Hey Jamie, pull that up.
we need our own young Jamie.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I feel good about doing this because, like I said, I need something like this.
How much carpet's out there? Like, do you all really? Oh, okay, you know what?
Are they in the hallway?
I think they must be in the hallway.
Yeah, that's okay.
We need a studio eventually. That's gonna be our.
It's gonna be like a goal.
Yeah. I got nice little crystals hanging out, guys. They're so
Oh, yeah.
pretty. Got lots of little hanging outs. Ooh, sparkles, parkles. Don't try to bite it. It's really hard.
Yeah, putting crystals in your mouth probably not a good idea.
Yeah, about as good of a idea. I got really fresh new kicks. My boots, my barefoot boots, that came in the mail pretty early, and I got excited and I licked them, and they taste horrible. You shouldn't lick boots. You shouldn't. I should really stop licking everything. I'm an adult.
Yeah. It's like you're a animal, like a cat, because you know how it's like a sign of affection. Where you're like, I like this thing so much. I just need to put it in my mouth.
I have stopped licking most humans. I know anybody who went to high school with me will recall that. Oh man, I'm a fucking weirdo. See, this is why people shouldn't hear about me, because I'm a fucking weirdo. But I used to lick the people I liked, and y'all were just very patient with me. I don't know why you tolerated me. I was a weird fucking guy. Not to say I'm any less weird, slightly more appropriate.
Yeah.
And in these COVID days, licking people is not a good idea.
It doesn't follow the proper social distancing guidelines.
Get a mask that my tongue can poke through and just like. It's a terrible idea. Don't listen to me.
Well, it's a good idea.
Okay. Whatever you say, Jordan.
But it's interesting. It's an interesting feeling to be doing this thing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about licking, and I was like, it's an interesting feeling to be licked.
No, I'm
Moving on.
moving to
All right, cool.
to a different zone.
It is.
Yeah.
It's weird being on a thing that I think other people might see at some point in time.
Yeah. And even people, if they don't, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And that's like we mentioned before, that's like the number one marker that I think you're doing the right thing. If you're really passionate and excited about what something could be, but ultimately you're doing it because irregardless of what it could be, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel excited to do. Like, I'm already excited to make this a normal thing. Like, have this become more and more and more normal to the degree that it's not like, oh, I'm all jittery. Oh no, I'm on video. Whoa.
Right.
Like a month from now, when we're doing a podcast, like it goes back to what you were saying, like being able to see that growth. We'll be able to like, ooh, we could do commentary on our first podcast.
Oh God.
Be like, look at those losers, and then a month later we could be just like inception it down all the way.
Jay and Kaskian reacting to Jay and Kaskian reacting to Jay and Kaskian reacting to Jay and Kaskian.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be the name, guys. Jay and Kaskian.
Yeah.
Which stroke of genius, stroke of stupidity? We've yet to know. And we'll find out.
Just roll with it.
Yeah.
Just let it be.
Let it be.
But
Shoo-ba-doo-pop-pop-pop.
I think that this will be good especially when we get to a point where we can have other people come and talk.
Yeah, I'm really excited for new perspectives
because I want to use this to like actually talk to people,
have like real conversations.
Have real conversations with people.
That's kind of scary though for our guests. Like think about if we brought on one of our friends who we haven't like connected with in a good long while, and we're like, hey, it's good to see you, superficial stuff, blah, 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 blah. And we save all the real conversation for podcasts. Like, that's kind of terrifying for mainly the guest, but also...
I guess it would have to depend on how comfortable they are.
Just being themselves.
And being...
It'll be a good...
Right. But I think if we focus on, like topics, I guess you could say, not necessarily topics, but I feel like if we're gonna have somebody on, like it will be either this is gonna be us hanging out and like reconnecting and just shooting the shit, or it's going to be like, hey, you have this thing that you're really good at and we want to talk about it. It's like
one of both of those blended too.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about, well, everything. This really makes everything in my life just kind of feel more acceptable. Like if we took this off the table and we weren't able to just do a podcast, I don't know why either. It just maybe anybody who's watching this can relate that sometimes you just stumble across a thing that just makes you feel good.
Yeah. I think that it's the unfortunate thing is I feel like a lot of people in the world struggle to find that space.
Yeah.
Like, and
I mean, I wouldn't have been able to find it if I didn't have like a friend like you. Like for whatever reason, you saw me in Colorado.
Yeah.
Just kind of listless ship, just bumping into weird shit and being like, where am I? What?
Like, what's that? Oh, maybe go this way. No, that's the wrong door. Don't go that way. Yeah. But I guess that's part of the process, though.
Yeah.
Because the process of doing those things leads us here.
Yeah, it's kind of infuriating. So, like when you see people who seemingly haven't done that, and then they're just like cruising through life. It's like, what? I've failed 60 million times more than you have tried new things. Why are you okay with the world and I'm upset? Like, right. God damn it, I am trying here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it is weird. It is weird how it seems like
there are so many people who are just okay functioning in the world as is.
Yeah. Well, that could also be like kind of a face value judgment as well.
That's true, because
you don't know what's happening in their internal world.
Yeah.
Like what you see could be like the what they want you to see, like the facade, I guess.
The done up like proper version that they show to the world, kind of like all those like Facebook people that are like, my life is so great, and then you actually talk to them and they're like, I hate my life, everything about it sucks. Your Facebook post gets lots of likes though.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I have one of my sisters has helped me a lot by confiding in me, because she's like the perfect one that she's struggled a shitload in a lot of the spaces, but that's not the kind of stuff that she talks about.
Right.
Because, I mean, in normal world, why would you?
Right.
But
yeah, it's useful though to understand like how common of an occurrence it is for people to feel failure, or like to feel like they don't have direction, or they don't
know what the fuck is
they
going
don't know
on.
what the fuck is going on. They don't know where they're going, and it like just like you said, stumbling around, running into random shit, just being like, oh, this thing, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're just walking in like these weird kind of circles of thought right now. But going back to the purpose thing, the times in my life where I can say I was like the happiest was, in college when I got really into Northern Shaolin Kung Fu. And it was like, my house was a party house, And one of the classes was Friday night, so I'd get home at like 9 o'clock after my 2.5 hour class, and I would just feel fucking great. And the party was actually a step down from me going and doing like tornado kicks in the studio and stuff like that. And I mean, it seems so cut and dry, like clear as day. If you have something that you are actively working at being better in it, your life takes on like a glow, like a special luminescence, and happiness is much easier to attain. Even the hard stuff becomes less daunting because it's like, but that's okay, because ultimately I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to get better at this, and I'm going to be so impressive, blah, 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 blah.
Right. And that's kind of like, that's like in our programming, like as humans, like unless, like if you have like, it's like the meaning thing, you know, like you need something that you're looking at that's, you know, far enough away that you can see the climb to achieve it, but close enough to realize that it's actually attainable and like to do something. And especially when it comes to like physical, like martial arts stuff and things like that, those are things that are very tangible, and you can watch yourself progress over time. Like even in one class, you know, in one class, you can go in there knowing absolutely nothing and come out knowing something.
Right.
And so you can like visibly see the difference between, you know, I came in here like this and I left like this. And then over time, you also get the broad, like collective of all of those days combined together. And then you get to see that progress as well. So it's it's very easy to get, like the sense of like moving towards something or value out of like physical type things.
I can't help but wondering if that's like part of the human experience of being so attached to your ego that you can't survive. Because when you're thinking about like enlightenment, they're not necessarily like they're getting better at enlightenment, but enlightenment in itself is the detachment from all the other things,
like outcomes.
Yeah. So like it doesn't matter if you get good at other stuff. Like you can be. It feels like kind of a problem if. The image I have in my mind right now is like a monk at a monastery working towards enlightenment, but is also like practicing like kung fu or like some sort of martial art. And as they're practicing for a long time, they're feeling good about like, oh, I'm getting better, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. But as they're progressing in like the enlightenment kind of stuff, the meditation stuff, it becomes less and less important what you're doing, because it's all just in this ether in your consciousness.
Right.
And it's like this weird duality of you living in a human existence need this like egoic purpose of getting better at something and moving towards something. But in the consciousness realm, when you're just trying to like understand, and when you're really digging in, or when you're doing like a spiritual journey thing with plant medicines, it's the removal of that. And it's hard to tell which one is more beneficial for you as a human.
Right. And you're onto something there.
It's a weird thought. I thought it was worth saying.
You're onto something there, because I feel like from the people that I've listened to, it seems like both are like it's like duality. It's like the yin and yang thing, right? Like how everything can be broken down into positive, negative, or light and dark. You know, like the yin yang
the very
idea.
Abstract.
Like within our own experience, we have like consciousness and ego. You know, we have like
is consciousness and ego like a yin yang thing?
I think so. I think it is.
This is a good talk now.
Yeah, because like. Because consciousness by itself is like the vision of oneness, like seeing how everything is connected and one.
And not being separate at all.
Right.
Like you and I and that cat and this fucking really cool crystal that I got, we're like literally same, no difference.
Right. That how everything is connected in some form of way, which like we can go sciencey, but we don't have to go there. I want to get this thought out.
Right.
So you have the consciousness aspect, which is like no judgment, just understanding that there is that everything is one, everything is connected, and we're all like all of experience is bred from the same things. You know, we're all stardust. You know, that idea that we're all part of the same thing. And then you have like the opposite of that, and that's ego. And both of these things reside in both people. And ego is the act of separation, because
Distinctly separate.
right, and separation is necessary because it's necessary for experience. Because if everything is one and you see everything as one, there'll be no experience.
There's nothing.
Like there's no way to learn or grow or expand in things. You need the separation from the ego in order to have experience and to learn and to start understanding things like yourself and, you know, reality. So like within each of us, we have, you know, we have consciousness and we have mind. So like, you know, like consciousness and ego, and both of them are necessary, I feel like, to be integrated into some form of a meaningful life where you can use consciousness and like more the understanding of the spiritual ideas in the way that where you can see the interconnectedness of everything, but at the same time you can also be present in your ego and use that to be productive and make an impact on other people's experiences for, you know, positivity or reducing suffering, those kind of things. Because if you become a monk and you want to completely like get out of the mind and get out of the ego and like write that off, like how much impact are you going to have on other people's experiences? You know, like maybe if people decide to come to your monastery and do that kind of stuff, you can impact them in that way.
Yeah,
But
it seems like the only true benefit to humanity as a whole that you could do is doing something like the Dalai Lama does, where he goes around and the people who have too much of the ego, of the mind, who don't have enough of the other stuff, can hear him and blend a little bit of it.
Right.
Like you basically sacrifice your ego so you can help others balance theirs.
Right, exactly. And then like that's where I would go into like almost being monk-like, or being outside of your ego completely, and like kind of like getting rid of your ego. I don't like it's not destructive, but it's not productive, if that makes sense. Like I don't think that it's a productive place to come from. I feel like maybe it can facilitate peace in your life, and you might be able to like help other people get there. But if that's the only place you're coming from, you're not going to help facilitate other people's growth as well outside of you.
I think there's a certain sense of like, don't go on the table, bud. Here, just go do cat stuff. There's a certain sense of because if you experience a lot of trauma in this world, in your physical mind, ego, whatever you want to think of it as, the only place you can really like you can talk to people to try to assuage your mind and all that, but ultimately you're not going to heal. You have to go into that kind of enlightenment space to deal with the simple existence of your mind in this space and what you deal with. So it's like this constant ebb and flow of what you need more of.
Right. Do you need more of the yin, or do you need more of the yang?
Because we've both been on the side of, like, once we started diving into the enlightenment stuff, we both been into the place of like, you know, none of this matters, everything is one, blah 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 blah. But when you wake up in the morning,
get rid of the material world.
when you wake up in the morning and you don't have access to that space right away, you hate your life because you don't have. There's no balance of these two pieces, and no matter how much time you spend, just I think it goes into like an entire sect of our society, like the Wook, you know,
Yeah.
the Wooks,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you can certainly exist in that way, but you end up sort of being a pariah to society because all you're interested in is this enlightenment value, and you stop being productive. The
Right.
only thing you do is you present this like shadow version of what it should be, but it's gone too far, and you end up seeing these like crazy people that are just like dreads are like smacking people and they're just picking up ground scores and they're like, "Ooh, I found this thing on the ground. I'm gonna eat it." Oh man, that might be a little bit of a wook.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah.
Don't eat ground drugs.
Yeah.
Ground scores are danger zone.
It's a bad idea. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because if you like when it's almost like you see the level of when you remove ego completely, you almost see how it can, or okay, let's not say it. I don't think it's possible to remove ego completely. I think it's a part of our nature, but when you fight it and you bash it into a corner so very often, like it's almost like there's a certain level of corruption that comes when you do that as well. Like it's almost like it's the chaos and order. It's the yin and the yang. Like you need the balance of the two to be able to like not only connect to people and be useful and productive, but then also be able to have like a good meaningful experience yourself. So yeah, it's really interesting. You can see like a majority of our society, especially Western society, is like very ego driven. Like we're very grounded in the ego, and there's not a lot of room for the spiritual aspect. There's been more lately.
You have to, living in the society, you have to seek it out though. Like you don't really get exposed to it if you're just going through life. And we know lots of people who are very close to us who haven't had to deal with any of the, I guess, spiritual realms of this stuff. And spiritual realm, I think, also encompasses a lot of human emotion, because human emotion, I mean, it's tied to ego. It's almost like the bridge between ego and spirituality.
Right.
Like when you're feeling a powerful emotion and you don't know where it's from, you can just like lash out. But if you can understand where its roots lie, you can use it as this huge developmental tool for yourself and be able to actually like fix problems. Because if someone's really mad at me and I feel very reactive to it, I feel like an emotional burst. Like I've spent enough time getting that I'm like, oh, I feel something very strongly. So that means I need to look at this, because if it makes me react, it's got some importance to it. And then if I look in and I address that emotion and I look at it very carefully, I can be like, oh, I see where you're coming from and I see where I'm coming from. And now I can build a bridge to an actual resolution.
Right.
Which is why I think we generally don't have too many problems with people, because like, I don't know about you, but I don't have any long-standing like disgruntled people or anything like that. At least I don't think so. And if I do, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm just a little ego monster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we all like struggle with that to some degree, but it's a good point to make, because I guess that can tie everything back into like what we're doing here now, because it's almost like,
ooh, like the light turned on and I can feel you're onto something. Do some talking.
Oh man, I just overloaded my mic with air. Maybe get like a little mini pop filter or something.
Hey, it's our first one. We're allowed to have some mistakes, but go back to that thought.
Oh yeah, okay. So like, I feel like doing something here and like us using our creativity and trying to put something together like this it's like a combination between our like the conscious aspect of ourself and the ego aspect of ourself. Like it's like this is where it like comes together, you know.
And that's why it feels so good to do, and we're unconcerned about the like end up outcome. Like it's just
right. It's like
satisfying right in this moment.
Right, and that's
a cool thought. And it took us a lot of meandering to get there. But that's a really cool thought.
Yeah. Just come back to the beginning.
Yeah. Oh man, we're gonna have some weird ass talks on this place.
Yeah.
Wait until we get to ghost stories. We got some of those, man.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what it's gonna turn into. I'm very interested.
Yeah. There's really not one thing it's going to be either, unless you like really broadly just say Jay and Kaskian talking about weird shit. Because this is going to be our life.
Right. I'm curious as to where it will go, and I think it will be good, like like even if we just like saved this on the computer.
Oh, I fucked up my camera, something proper. I just wanted to do like a mystery, like crystal, but you fucked that up really good. I'm sorry. Learning.
Yeah. I was saying something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I forgot what I was saying. Even if we just like saved this on the computer and don't like put it anywhere, like I said, it'll still be interesting to like go back and look and be like, like where was my perception back then? What was I thinking? I'm curious. What kind of conversations was I having? What were the things I was thinking about? It would be cool.
Yeah, because
interesting.
It's kind of like human growth, and then especially in these aspects of like the mind and all that, are really hard to see when they're in like steps. It's sort of like weight gain. Like you don't really see it on the day to day, and then suddenly you look and you're like, oh wow, I look different. You know. So it will be very interesting to look back and be like, oh wow, very different.
Right. Yeah. And it's cool because I did a podcast. I think it was like 3 years ago.
It was before you came out to Colorado, so that's like 4.
I did like 6 or 7 episodes, I think.
I watched a couple
with Sarah and a friend Nora, and going back now and watching those, I'm almost afraid to do it.
Oh,
Like
maybe
I'm
we should.
almost afraid.
Maybe we should do a Jay and Kaskian. Throw it on the screen and do a little commentary.
Yeah, it's like I feel like that would be hard to do because they're so long.
Yeah, we would probably have to clip it down.
Yeah,
like find like interesting bits
into little pieces for sure. But I don't know. It's interesting that like I feel like it's hard for me to go back and watch that because I'm like, I don't know what, like, I almost feel like I'm worried about like if I was to watch that, be like, it's almost like a nervous feel where it's like, oh, what was I saying? What was I thinking? Like, you know,
well,
like, have I grown beyond that?
That's like the main marker of like the cringiness of thinking back of what, oh, I did this back then. Ugh. That's the marker of growth. That means you are no longer the person that would do that.
Yeah.
And that cringes at the thought of that sort of behavior.
For sure. Yeah. And this first one that we're doing here, I feel like is definitely more, it's more directed towards like our experience and like why we're doing this, and it almost feels like a little narcissistic in a way.
It's totally narcissistic. We're just little bastards right now.
Yeah, but that's I think I'm most excited for using it as a learning tool.
Yeah,
and being able to like check shit out. So.
I mean, how else do you really go through and learn these things except to be a little bit of a narcissist and experience that and be like, oh man, 2 months from now we're gonna look back and be like, oh, look at those bastards.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just, I feel like that's just like the
human condition.
The human condition is the story of life. It's like, man, dude, like I'm sure that everybody has that.
I hope so.
Like
if you don't get that, I feel like there might be something wrong with you.
True. This is true.
Like if you're looking back at your high school days and you're like, man, I was a fucking superstar. Ah, you're probably a doucher.
Yeah. The best days of my life.
That was something I was running from so hard in my young life. I was like, I refuse to be that guy. And now I can comfortably say high school was bullshit.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, we weren't even there for our senior year. We both we were like, out.
Bye.
In our own special ways.
Bye. This isn't working out, guys. Sorry.
Most people are excited for their senior year, and we were both so sick of it by junior year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that it just seemed like there were useful aspects of it.
I think most of the useful aspects were the social aspects.
Yeah,
like
that's it.
It was like a playpen for young adults figuring out how they have to interact in the world. And some of them are really bad at it because they would just like fight.
Right.
Over like relationships or something.
School itself wasn't about that.
No. I mean, you don't learn. I mean, you learn math. You learn some science principles. And you learn a little bit of English. But like the history they teach in high school it's almost completely fabricated.
Yeah.
It's like a version of history
It's like somewhat true.
that's somewhat true, right?
Somewhat.
But like I was in college for history, and the more I learned in college about history, the more I was like, everything I know about history is wrong.
Yeah.
Because I was getting these different perspectives of like professors who had specialties in different spaces, and like I don't know if y'all know, but America's history is very bloody and very, very bad. And if we taught American history to our high schoolers, well, I think it would just what's the word I'm looking for?
Exposed.
Like aggravate more people to be just like super liberal,
Yeah.
like and super like self-hating and that's not really productive in a lot of ways to be a self-hating American. Like we didn't get to choose this stuff, and as long as you don't feel like what was happening back then is right and okay, like you're not that person. I think we need to be able to look at history with clear eyes and understand that just because history says like all these horrible things have happened, that's not who we are today. History is just, it's like a workbook full of mistakes. You need to have those mistakes, and you need to have a clear vision of those mistakes so that you understand not to make them again.
Yeah. The problem comes especially when history is like the things that are taught may not be false, but they're spun with a certain like emotional aspect attached to them that like almost like corrupts the vision of it, of like what it actually was. That becomes dangerous. But that's if we keep going down there, that's dangerous.
Yeah, we should probably
dangerous.
Probably start dodging little bits and pieces here and there, because we've got opinions,
Bob and weave.
but
Bob and weave.
we've hit a certain space in time in the political realm where opinions are actually very bad to have, unless it's the collective opinion, which is very bizarre to see because we didn't grow up in that world.
No.
We also didn't grow up in like a safe space world, which objectively is hilarious. Like safe space in general is like, yo, kindergarten wasn't even a safe space. That's why you go, because your parents create like a sort of safe space, and then they're like, oh, I can't keep doing this, otherwise my child's going to become a monster. So I need to put him in a not safe space where he has to start learning limits and how to interact and like what's okay, what's not.
Right.
And that's what kindergarten's preschool, like all of it starts with a not safe space.
As soon as you get to a point where you're sheltering people from the experience of like real life, and like that's so bad for that person, because as soon as they come into contact with resistance, like they're just gonna fucking crumble.
Or they will overreact in like a very vicious attack. Like anger is a response mechanism we have to being like potentially being scared our ego is ill-informed, you know?
Right. That we can circle that back. Like people who are in that position of like being very angry are like, coming from that space is coming from a very egoic space.
Yeah.
Because you identify with your ego and your belief systems, and like that's your identity and that's who you are. And as soon as something happens or someone challenges that, it's not just challenging a belief or an opinion. They're literally challenging your existence as a human, how you identify in the world. And that's like a full-on, like someone's coming at you with a sword attack.
And the only okay reaction in that situation from your valid space and perspective is you got to fight it back. You can't fight me. I need to defend her.
Right.
But I think we had to spend a couple of years figuring out how to not be attached to our beliefs, because even beliefs we hold very like dear and true. Like if someone's got a new perspective, you and I feel like in my limited perspective might be the best examples of people that I know who can be like, oh, you're challenging everything that I believe. you know what? You could be right. I don't know. But would you like to hear some of my sources? Like, would you like to understand why I believe what I believe? And the problem is I frequently come across people who are not interested in understanding how I got to my belief. They're just interested in dismantling it in any way, shape, or form they can.
Right.
And typically it's not by dismantling the actual substance. It's about character assassination. Like, I'm bad for believing this or something like that. It's like, well, no, address my point. Like, this is an interesting topic.
Right.
Would you like to discuss the topic?
Right. It's like, it's not about me. It's not about me.
And that's an interesting thing too. Before I get too far away, there's that, I know you've seen that, it's an image with the emotional spiral up and down, like which emotions lead to which.
Yes.
Yes. That would be a great graphic. I wish we had that easily and readily available.
Well, if you keep talking, I can find it.
Well, it's super interesting because it seems. Hang on, did I pop the video just to me? I hit my button.
I'm just gonna go to us. It's on both of us now.
Oh, okay. It's a super interesting infograph. I think that's the right word, because it shows the realistic slippage of how your emotions go. And Jordan and I have had to spend a lot of time like pondering these sorts of spaces, because irrationally we would go to these very dark places or end up in emotional spaces that just fucking sucked. We both struggled with depression for long periods of our life because we just couldn't figure out how to understand like where our emotions were leading us and how to take control of them. And not like vicious control, but to understand it.
Okay, I can pull up here.
So, ooh, I can't see super well. So,
that's as big as I can make it right now.
Oh, okay. But you can see it's very, very complex, and it's sort of, it also mirrors a lot of the like the cycles of grief and all these things, where you can follow where these pieces go. I don't know what the screen currently shows. Can it? Do we have the dual thing where we can see our stuff?
That's what's up right now.
Oh, it is. Okay. Really, that's the biggest. Okay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. I'll just save it onto my desktop and
see if we can't expand
it. I'll pull it up and zoom in.
I think this is a really good topic to discuss. One I saw right away was like boredom. Boredom's right in the middle. It doesn't really exist in any particular space, like good or bad.
There you go.
But you can see boredom. And I know we've all felt this. You get bored. And then very quickly you can go to frustration, feeling overwhelmed, even about nothing. Fearing certain outcomes, getting jealous of others because they might not be. And this all just stems directly from boredom. It's a very quick little spiral down, and obviously you can jump through different emotions very quickly and all that stuff, but the general gist of it is as you go through like fear, you end up being insecure. And when you're insecure, you're feeling unsupportive, and you might doubt and hit this feeling of hatred and heartache, rejection. And you can see that these are very realistic spaces that we are guided to naturally in our minds.
Right. And each one of those is kind of like a oops.
You're sending us into a goddamn Inception world.
I know. Bugs are still being worked out.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We'll be a little bit more consistent with being able to do this. But the thing, like, when you look at something like this, like all of those steps, like boredom to overwhelm to fear, insecurity, pessimism, grief, unsupported failure, hatred, like, or even like going on the up, like I feel like those are all connected with little bridges, and all of those little bridges are thoughts, like they're like thought patterns.
Yeah.
Like they don't just happen to you in random, like emotionally, because those are all like emotional type of experiences.
Yeah.
Like each one of those things are connected by like a train, you know, like a train of thought, where it's like at first you're, you know, either on the neutral side, either boredom or hopeful, or boredom and calm optimism, right? Like you're on like in the neutral space.
Yeah. And that's such.
And then you have a thought.
And if you don't guide that thought,
and then the thought goes to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. And then before you know it, like you're just fucking cascading down the mountain of all of these things, all guided, like all just riding on a thought train down a hill.
And interestingly enough, it does this emotional scale does seem to follow the same laws of like gravity, because to lead yourself up the scale, it's not necessarily hard. Like if you know what to do and the right thoughts to like follow, like I know that if I'm bored and I'm feeling like disgruntled and everything like that, the easiest way for me to derail that boredom is to just be grateful. Like look around at the stupid little stuff around me like, oh, I have a cat and that cat loves me and that makes me feel good. I'm really grateful I have this cat. And it seems so silly and so dumb, but to go up the mountain, it takes conscious awareness to take those steps. And going down the mountain is like this spiral of, oh, fuck my nuts in a bag full of jelly beans.
It's like you're out of control.
Yeah.
It's like what happens when you don't have the, it's like an out of control thing. It's like when you don't, the best way that I have it, like I had it told to me, is that it's like you can use two different analogies or metaphors for this. Like either you are, like say that like your mind or the place that you're in, like from the moment that you're born is just an open field of grass, like just tall grass.
I like this already.
Just like very tall grass.
I'm imagining like the gladiator scene when he's like walking through the grass and he's like, whoa.
Right.
Sorry,
right.
continue.
And over your life, like, especially when you're a kid and you first kind of start developing mind, you start walking through this grass on a daily basis.
Oh,
and certain things will push you in different directions.
Like there's a rock underneath this grass, so I know I have to take this way or that way.
Right, right. And then over time, the more that you walk through that grass, the more and more packed down that grass gets. And over a lifetime of experiences, you'll have these very blatant and obvious, easy to take paths in your mind that it's like, man, I've been walking down this path so often, it's fucking paved. I can just roll down this shit. Just nice and easy, like down this path. But just because it's an easy path to take doesn't mean that it's a good path to take. It can be taking you down bad, like down the bad side of that, that spiral.
And we have like young influences on our lives that determine, like if your parents say like this is the path that I take, and you inherently just start carving that path for yourself, which is very dangerous.
But then as time goes on, like these very like blatantly pushed down paths that you take very often, if you have an experience or something that can like make you understand that's what's happening, and say like, oh, now I see that I'm taking this path over and over. This process of thoughts. First I think about this, then I think about this, then I think about this, and that's the easy path, and it always leads me to the same negative space.
Which also connects to the path, like the science aspect of this, that you carve neural pathways.
Right.
Like
it's an exact metaphor for that. Exact metaphor for that. Because over time, if you become more aware of that happening to you, you can watch yourself walk down those paths, and then you can start, it's like almost like you start developing little bus stops in there, you know, where it's like,
where you check in and be like, wait,
I'm going down this path right now. And then you're like, you know what? No, I'm not taking that path. And then you move in the other direction, which is really hard to do because you gotta go through grass that's still, you know,
it's never been trampled, and you don't know what's under there. You're gonna come into stumbling blocks. You might fall a little bit, but every time you get to that bus stop and you're like, I see this, that path has a little, like you can tell, like you've walked that path before, and now it's easier to go down that path, and you know where that rock is, you know where the stream lies. You can figure out how to navigate and make this path a little bit less treacherous.
Right, exactly. And the more and more and more that you do that, the more padded down that path gets, and the easier it gets to take that path. And eventually it's like, you know what, I'm only going to take that path. And then the other old path starts like growing, starts like regrowing back over. And then all of a sudden it just disappears as a path in general, if you practice enough and if you stay conscious and aware of enough of your thoughts and where they're going.
Yeah. I mean, we had that whole experience from jealousy, because both of us have ventured into the open relationship realm, and we had to reprogram what jealousy really is. And let me tell y'all, that's a treacherous fucking path. that one hurts a lot. You stub your toes, you hit your shins, you fall face first into a really bad pit, and you gotta figure out how to get the fuck out of there. And suddenly the little girl from the ring starts climbing up, and you're like, get out of here, what are you doing? She's like, I'm here to take you into hell. And you're like, no, 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 no. There's sunlight and there's a path up there because other people have told me, and I've seen them be happy in this space.
Right.
But that's like, oh man, emotional paths are such a difficult thing to learn how to navigate, and each one is so unique. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Anger, I think, has been the easiest one for me to avoid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know when it happened, but for whatever reason, I just don't get properly angry at people. Like, as soon as that feeling comes up, I'm like, no, but I understand. I understand why you did the things you did, and I understand you didn't do it because you wanted to hurt me. And even if you did do that because you wanted to hurt me, that doesn't come from a place of like you hating me. It comes from a place of like you being hurt and having to figure out that pathway for yourself. So it's like this anger pathway has for so long been carved in a way like I don't really experience anger in that sense to another human. That I don't even have to act like when people get angry at people, I'm confused. I'm like, I guess the only example I have for me getting angry at people is like in Chicago. Like I got cut off driving like multiple times just because people wanted to drive faster. But even then it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, man. You must have something really important to do, or maybe you just found out your baby's being born or something. Like, I'm going to give you benefit of the doubt, but that was dumb. You put me in danger. You put you in danger. Don't do that. And at this point, this person's already driven away. Like, they can't hear me. I'm out here shaking my finger at people who actually don't give a flying fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. But, hey, that's, I think, the path in life to learning about these types of things is it's different for everyone, and not everyone is going to like learn in the same way or about the same stuff. So it's like, and like there's no it's like a lifelong thing. Like nobody's ever going to get it like perfectly right.
Yeah,
like
anybody who tells you like, oh, I graduated therapy, or I don't have to think about this anymore because I've already done my thinking. This is a never-ending thing. Like your consciousness is more complex than anything. Like talk about rocket science, it's goddamn nothing. Like compared to your consciousness, I think in the next like 40 years we're gonna realize that consciousness has an entire field of science that should be devoted to it, where people spend decades just learning about how it functions and these different things. And I know psychology sort of gets into that, but it also is very, very attached to the physical realm of it. And consciousness,
rather than the emotional thoughts.
Yeah. And consciousness is such a complex, like almost esoteric kind of thing.
Yeah.
People have been studying consciousness forever, like going back to like Freud and fucking Plato and Socrates, like,
right.
But it never stops.
And that's where like the birthplace of psychology came from.
Yeah. Psychology as a science grew out of us contemplating consciousness and the own mind, and the ability to be like, okay, I am observing my own consciousness right now, but what the fuck am I then?
Yeah, and that's it, and that's like the process of us using our like interaction with the world, and like being able to like break into pieces our experiences and then label them as something so we can look at it and figure out what it is. And I mean, we still got a long way to go. We got a long way to go.
We're gonna be 87 years old and be like, oh shit, man, I don't know nothing.
Yep.
The more you know, the more you just
don't know.
Yeah.
The more
we're just figuring out more things that we just don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Which is oddly comforting at this point. Like I used to be upset. I used to think like, oh, I can be like super smart and know a bunch of stuff. But being able to list off like facts and figures, numbers and stuff, that's only good if you're having an egoic argument with someone and you're really trying to hammer it down to make them feel bad about
which
stuff.
Can be useful in its place.
Yes.
But
it's not actually...
But untethered to something, it's like... It can be destructive too. So.
Especially in a world where... like, I don't know what it's like in high school right now, but I know in our world, when we were growing up, we were made to memorize facts and figures and all this stuff. They were like, oh, you won't have a calculator on you. You won't always be able to do this math. You have to be able to do it in your head. And it's like, you realize there's an app for that. Like everything. Like you want to know something? Give me 30 seconds and I will know more about it than you. Because I can go and read this expert who has spent his entire life and I can go over his thesis statements and his findings and be like, this is the actual, like,
right. Or, and then also go and find the people who oppose him.
Right.
And then look at that.
Which is always a super important step.
Right. Because it's not like the thing about trying to learn about the world and reality and figure things out. Like there's no, truth is a very slippery thing.
Yes. And you have to be more interested in the truth than being right, which is this goes back to that balance of ego.
So you have to be able to hold like, this is what makes the most sense right now that I see.
But
you know, like given other information, I'm willing to look at it and try and change that.
I think the unhealthiest viewpoint, and I struggle to find an example that's counter to this, but I think the most unhealthy viewpoint is like, I am unwilling to change my view. Like I've struggled with hyper-religious folks who, like, when it boiled down to it, it didn't matter that I knew the history of their religion or that all of these other religions had all of the exact same elements and that their story was actually lifted from a previous religion from thousands of years before. It gets down to the question of, what would I have to do in order for you to change your perception on this? And they say, there's nothing.
Right.
I have unwavering faith that I am correct. And it's like, well, then you're lost. Because even on the things that I attach to my ego, because we all do it, like my sense of self is very much so built on aliens. They exist, yo. We're not the only things that exist in this whole fucking thing. This place is huge. Anyways, I'm still open to someone telling me, no, you're wrong. And it's like, if I said that I was just right and nothing you could say could convince me otherwise, I would be a fool. Because it's totally possible. While I don't necessarily agree with it, I do accept the possibility that maybe we are. Maybe we are the only creature in this physical plane, this dimension, that exists at all. Maybe everything else exists in a different sort of dimension, and each dimension only houses one creature. And the whole of everything that's ever existed is just waiting for us as the only species to go out there and populate it all. And we're the only thing. Maybe that is true. I don't have a problem considering that. And that's like, if anybody who watches this, and Jordan knows me, my whole being like resonates with the whole like, they're among us, aliens. But I'm still okay with accepting the thought like,
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe
I'm wrong.
But
like, the world's a trip. I'm wrong about a lot of shit.
But given, I mean, what I want to believe, and then also like other like pretty satisfactory evidence, it's like, but I like, this is where I choose my belief to sit.
Yes, based on the things that I have researched and tried to prove wrong at certain points in time, and ultimately couldn't find satisfactory answers if I tried to prove it wrong.
It doesn't mean that there aren't satisfactories out there.
Right. And that's the thing. You just got to always be open to maybe this thing that I hold to be absolute and true is not.
Yeah.
Man,
this went a lot deeper into...
I think we're better at this than we were giving our... Like, we were both very nervous at the beginning, but then we started talking about shit that matters to us. Like,
yeah. This went into like a hell of a lot deeper into like the shit that we think about on a regular basis than I thought we would.
That's meta, bro.
That's definitely meta, bro. Yeah. But, I mean, we've been here for an hour and 10. I mean, for our first one.
I think that's fair, and now we can fuck around with it a little bit. Anybody who ends up seeing any of this, we don't know if this is going on the web or what's going to happen with it, but if you are tuning in, we're grateful, and we'd be very excited to have conversations and
Yeah.
Yeah, every perspective is welcome. Even people who totally disagree with everything that's fundamental to our nature. Like, we value your input. We want to hear these things.
Yeah. And this is, like I said, this is just literally going to be like us talking about the shit that we would normally talk about anyway.
Yeah, this always happens. Like every morning that I get out of bed or Jordan gets out of bed, we come here, we get our coffee, we sit across the table from each other, and we just end up in one of many topics of conversation, which you guys have just seen how our minds kind of dance around.
Yeah, about things. And hey, like, I just kind of want to capture it and put it out there, and
and see
maybe other people who think about similar shit be like, hey, I like that.
Or maybe people will tune in and be like, they're having an interesting conversation that I would also like to put my perspective in. Send us a message. Yeah. Like, if you're in the Midwest area, like, let's collaborate, yo. Like, more perspectives is good perspectives.
For sure. And I mean, maybe the people that'd be like, yo, motherfuckers are just crazy.
And, that'd be valid too. Maybe we can just have like a good conversation about like the fucking weather.
Yeah. Water evaporates on the Earth's crust and through...
Oh, God, this is already so boring. Shut the fuck up. Okay, you have to be at least moderately entertaining to
Okay. No, I was trying to not be entertaining. All right. Anyway, I think this is a good spot to end it.
I think so too. Yeah, that was
solid.
An hour slipped by in a matter of
moments.
Yeah. Is a good obscure.
I'm excited.
Oh, look how much I sweat. Goddamn coffee, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll keep those down. Bye.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what this will turn into. So.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Peace out, homies.
Peace.